imminent shutdown of the counties, and the last push is tomorrow. The governors are really committed, and they're saying if this does not happen, we even consider sending some of our staff home. We have about 10 minutes to the top of the hour, but let's begin the discussion with Wakili Jack. Jack, this is the only time since devolution began that we have seen the governors, the counties have been pushed to the edge, and they're likely to tip over. And now they're saying if Friday fails, which is a day away, they're likely to shut down the counties. Do you think they'll find any justification at the end of the day for this?
Let me begin by contextualizing the discussion. One, that one of the reasons for which this country has fought for a very long time, the people of this nation, is resources, on account of resources, how resources can be devolved so that it reaches every other Kenyan, since all Kenyans pay taxes in equal measure. And having said that, so the advent of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 brought about devolution, and after devolution, we have seen that more monies have been devolved into our counties, and therefore communities, counties, people are able to manage their affairs and also govern themselves. And naysayers have said that devolution is really not doing so much, so we don't even need devolution. My thinking is that devolution, and indeed we have seen some counties where devolution has started working, devolution has worked, and devolution needs to be supported. Having said that, Ken, there are two issues. One, it is the very first time I'm seeing, the Council of Governors, the governors who are members of the executive, combining forces with the county assembly, which is the legislative wing of these counties who are supposed to be foresighting these governors, and of course the Senate, which is also another legislative wing that is supposed to protect the interests of the counties, coming together to demonstrate, or rather to picket, against the National Treasury, which is the executive. So under the Constitution, we are aware that the counties are supposed to work independently, but there is also the aspect of interdependence, because how do they work with the national government under cooperation and consultation, and of course interdependence. So there needs to be a forum, and indeed that forum is there, the summit. And there is also the Intergovernmental Relations Committee, and also the summit where the national government and the county governments come together, and that committee also that brings the county government and the national government. The Constitution is clear as to the monies that are supposed to be remitted to the counties. But the only problem is that that money, it's a bit subjective, to the extent that it only says you cannot give less than 15%. What does that mean? You could give 80. At some time, you can decide I am giving 16%. At some point, you can say you are giving 90%. And these are the questions for discussions which had been started long time ago. I remember when Isaac Ruto was the chairman of COG, he started what is called Pesa Mashinani. And they were pushing that the Constitution needs to be very clear that if it is 40%, if it is 15%, it should be clear that this is 15%. And that also brings us to the legislation. Parliament and the National Assembly as against the Senate. I was here sometimes back when we have the legislative quagmire, the impasse between the National Assembly and the Senate. When a particular law has been passed by the National Assembly and has gone to the Senate has failed to approve it, in which case the Division of Revenue Bill 2019 has not gotten approval from the Senate, and the Senate is saying that the monies that are supposed to be allocated to the counties is less, or rather it should be more than what has been indicated in the Division of Revenue Bill. We need to find a solution as to the working relationship between the National Assembly and the Senate. Okay. And we also need to find...
Jack, you've spoken too much. You've gone round. let me speak to Nerima. You've gone round and round. Nerima, do they find justification at the end of the day if they eventually decide to shut down the counties?
I do believe that counties do need the resources, and the fact that we've just done our census, this is the sort of data information that should be utilized to justify that. As much as Nairobi is county 47, there's a reason why. As soldiers in the US Army, the lieutenant actually eats last. We should be thinking about it that way. When we talk about access to resources and even revenue collection, we have seen KRA struggling with that. And when we look at counties that now they have a governance structure put in place due to devolution, we have not quite gotten to the nicks and crooks as to how we collect that revenue when it comes to rural areas, when it comes to urban areas. A lot of times that's where the revenue is collected and concentrated on. But when we look at the national government, for instance, the budget or the constitution, unfortunately, has left some vague openings where they say that the government does need the resources for terms such as security, and they can use that to justify that we are constantly under threat when it comes to terrorism. So they can use large amounts of funding and resources toward that security. But if we do not look at our statistics and data and public finance management when it comes to counties, we will meet this gridlock that we're seeing today.
Okay.
And I think that this is where civil society, technocrats come in and use data information as to why we need to come up with an agreeable solution and lobby in that aspect. Right now, it looks like a battle of egos.
Okay.
But
Battle of
when
egos.
you asked whether there is a justification.
Yes,
I
I'm
was
going to
just
come back.
trying
Yes,
to
you
contextualize.
have gone to the history, try to put it into context. So
Yes.
you'll have an opportunity to find that justification. We have a few minutes, Mark.
Well, the key question is does devolution need more funds? And the answer is, of course, it does. It does because today counties are not hiring doctors. It does because today counties are not hiring nurses. It does because a lot of the machines that were supplied in hospitals do not have the personnel to do it. Counties need funds because also, other than I think 3, 4, 5 counties, most of the counties do not raise enough revenues even to pay salaries. I think it's Nairobi, Mombasa that can do this. And the question then becomes and portends that is it a question of did we make our devolved units so small in some areas that they could not sustain themselves? The other question that we need to ask is do county governments need to be so big? Because Kenya's model of governance has always been every person who comes in, you get all your cousins in, then the next person, more cousins, and then you've got so many permanent and pensionable employees that you have very little development budget. The other question that we need to ask these counties is, other than just running the office of the county, what is your developmental agenda and economic transformation agenda for your people? Because it's one thing to build roads, it's quite another to economically empower people. Because let me tell you, if you've got 2 chickens and a mud hut and a road passes near your house, it's not going to change your fate much. So we need to talk about these counties, what was imagined, especially, for example, a county like Turkana, when they're given the billions of shillings, what was imagined is they'll put up a framework through which they will transform the citizens the lives of the citizens within that county. And then we need to quantify how much that is. We also need to quantify when we say health is devolved, agriculture is devolved, primary basic kindergarten schooling is devolved. How much money do we need to actually give this county? So 2 things, the functions of the counties, how much do they cost, and the development and economic empowerment of the people, how much does that cost? And that's the percentage we should try to
be given. All right.